You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said to Snyan, you know what, let's not go too far. That's the former president's wife, and it seemed pretty terrible to me, so I decided not to punish her. The greatest crime in the history of the United States of America. Whether it's right or not, it's time to deal with these people. Obama was caught red-handed, so people are saying, oh, it's some group. It's not a group, it's Obama. His orders are on paper, the documents are signed, they came straight from their office, they sent everything as top secret. Well, top secret materials were made public. And what they did in 2016 and 2020 is very criminal. It's a crime of the highest degree. That's what we really should be talking about. I don't know anything about the others, but I think their appearance would be appropriate.
May I ask?
Mr. President?
Tulsi Gabbard has filed a motion to transfer the criminal case to the Department of Justice. From your point of view, who should the Department of Justice target for investigation? Which specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I've read, and I've read about the same as you, it would be President Obama. He started it, and Biden was with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper, that whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there in one room right here. It was that very room. Now it looks much more beautiful than it did back then, but that's not scary. I have beautiful paintings here. They were taken out of storage.
Gentlemen, the case is with the prosecutor's office. Tulsi is preparing additional materials. Trump said there are thousands of documents and pages. By the way, I'll show the part where he said, last time with regard to Hillary, last time I said don't do it, but now we have to. Since the Trump administration started all this, they have thought through the next steps as well.
When you come for the 50th anniversary?
Mr. President, do you support the Department of Justice seeking a new meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, and are you urging the Attorney General to do so?
Incomplete input, unable to shorten?
Are going to. 30 years, they are going to. That was... At a reception at the White House yesterday, Trump hosted the president of the Philippines. Trump said,
when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? When we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far. She's the former president's wife, and I thought it was terrible, so I let her go, and I'm very glad I did that. But it's time to start, after what they did to me. And whether it's right or not, it's time to deal with these people. Obama was caught red-handed. So people say, oh, it's some group, period. It's not a group, it's Obama. His orders are on paper, the documents are signed, the papers came straight from their office. They sent everything as top secret, but the top secret materials were made public. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's a crime of the highest level. That's what you really should be talking about.
For the first time, Trump said, I ordered not to touch Hillary. After all, she's the wife of a former president. But now, after what they've done to me, let them get what they deserve. Do you still have any doubts that the Department of Justice is ready to prosecute and imprison everyone, including Obama?
They were in there for 100 years. Now we have the Declaration of Independence in the room, which wasn't here before. Probably people didn't really want to put it here, but I did. But you know what? If you look at these papers, everything is clear with them. It was President Obama. It wasn't just some people from all over. It was them too. But the leader of this gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? Except for the fact that the press has covered for him his whole life. That's the very one whom... Listen, he's guilty, that's not in question. You know, I like to say, let's wait. Everything's out in the open. He's guilty, they are. It was betrayal. It was everything you could possibly imagine. They tried to steal the election. They tried to confuse the course of the election. They did things no one could even imagine. Even in other countries, you've seen some pretty tough countries. This man has seen quite a few harsh countries, but you've never seen anything like this. And we have all the documents, and according to Tulsi, she has thousands more documents that will be coming out soon. So, President Obama, it was his idea, his plan, but he also borrowed it from crooked Hillary Clinton, as fake as a $3 bill. Hillary Clinton and her team. The Democrats spent $12 million on Christopher Steele to have him write a report that turned out to be completely fake. It took 2 years to find this out, but in the end, it turned out that it was a completely fake report. It was a fabricated fiction, and they used it. The only thing they failed to do was this. And perhaps the only thing I respect the press for in recent years is that the press refused to publish it before the election. They refused to run it. The Steele dossier was a disaster. Complete lies, complete fabrication, all admitted fraud.
So the blow will fall on Hillary and her group that she was coming to power with, on Barack, and on all his security officials. Everyone is listed. Everyone except the Secretary of Defense. Well, he didn't take part in this. He's actually from a different camp, so to speak, yes. In general, they're all involved. So now, finally, justice will be told to stop peeking out from under the blindfold. Everyone we bring before you now must be equal.
Hillary Clinton, we caught Barack Hussein Obama. Hillary Clinton, we have Barack Hussein Obama. These people are the main ones, and under them there are many, many others. Rice, they're all there, all the names are there. And apparently they decided to classify it, and no one would ever see it again. But that's not how it works, and this is the most incredible thing I've ever read. So take a look at this and stop talking nonsense, because this is really serious. Nothing like this has ever happened in the history of our country. And by the way, all of this escalated into the 2020 election, and the 2020 election was rigged. It was a manipulated election because it was rigged. We have millions of people in our country. We had inflation. We solved the inflation problem. But millions and millions of people came to our country because of this, and people who shouldn't have come here. People from gangs, from prisons, and from psychiatric institutions, people we don't want to see in our country and whom we are deporting. Dangerous people, 11,888 murderers. Many of them 50%, even more than 50%, killed more than one person. I'm uncomfortable saying this in front of such a distinguished guest, but, I was asked the question, I have to answer the question, no. Barack Hussein Obama was the instigator. Hillary Clinton was right there with him, as were Sonia, Joe Biden, and all the others. Comey, Clapper, that whole group. And they tried to rig the election, and they got caught.
See, Trump finally got fired up. If they did to me what they've done to him, if I were sued that much, slandered, lied about, accused, insulted, my wife, my kids, I think I would also want the chance to hit back hard. I'm glad that Trump got that opportunity. I'm glad for him, and I'm glad for us. What are African American perspectives on the Obama's interracial marriage, given Barack Obama's biracial identity? They probably have something to say, like, he's one of ours, he's one of us. He fought against colonialism there, he has to check everything. Even if the likelihood of Putin being connected to the United States president was less than 1%, it's better to be overly cautious, as they say, than to get burned. True, false?
But, brother, you can't treat the American people like that and interfere in the elections to try to hinder our constitutional rights, to try to hinder our freedoms in the constitutional republic. You just can't do that. It's not my fault. Obama shouldn't have done what he did. They shouldn't have pushed the fake Russia collusion.
Black, white, red, yellow. Everyone understands everything. If you're driving and you get drunk, says Tatum, a former military man, then when you get caught, it's not the police's fault.
What does the law say? The law prohibits that. I won't be a hypocrite for anyone. It's like me getting a driving under the influence. I should be angry. No, I drank and drove. I was drunk and got behind the wheel. Don't go easy on me, brother. If someone else did that, you'd want leniency, but not for me. I did it. For example, when I got caught speeding, I was flying. I literally made myself lift up. I was flying, man. I was going 190 miles an hour. In that big old red truck, vroom, 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 vroom. I'm flying to Vegas. I see it. Oh, I have it. I won't make him even angrier.
It's time to talk about old man Biden, since he wasn't invited to important meetings with Obama and everyone forgot about him. Let's remember our old senile guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I am addressing you with real enthusiasm. Because we have finally found out who was controlling brainless Joe Biden and the auto-signing device. How did we find out, you may ask? And that's because it was revealed on camera by the co-chairman of the National Committee of the Democratic Party himself. Well, you just can't make up that level of irony. And what's even worse, on the very same day this video was published, the House Oversight Committee launched an investigation into Biden's cover-up. And there it is. The person whom the co-chair of the Democratic Party called the real puppet master is also included in the list for investigation. You know, I pay a lot of attention to this issue because I believe it's the biggest scandal in American history. And in my opinion, it's about to reach the point where, just as I predicted, the Democrats will start turning on each other en masse.
I would argue that the Obama scandal is actually bigger than this one, but everyone has their own opinion. Both of them are actually insanely huge. This is so not America. And so many millions of people have been brainwashed that they still don't hate this leader. Psycho thieves, bandits, and their whole gang. But the one they trampled, slandered, insulted, tried to kill, not those who did it, but the victim. Do you remember how the secret project caught and got the deputy chairman of the Democratic Party of the United States of America to talk?
Very good. Yes, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, yes.
Off the record, of course.
For me, the main question is how corrupt the Democratic National Committee is, if so many or so few people knew about the President of the United States.
I think the point is that the Democratic National Committee will always essentially be the president's campaign headquarters, ultimately. A more important question is, so to speak, Biden's inner circle. That's all. And I can't emphasize enough how much influence Joe Biden's chief of staff had.
Jill Biden?
Joe Biden's chief of staff. It was, in a sense, common knowledge in the White House. I, for example, tried to avoid him. He was intimidating. What was his name? Antony Blinken. I never saw him. Exactly. What do you mean? He's just like that. He's like a shadowy figure, like the Wizard of Oz. That's what made him like that, because I knew what he looked like, but, for example, the general public wouldn't know what this person looked like. But he had, just enormous power, and I can't convey how much power he had in the White House.
Well, just wow. Is anyone really surprised that the woman who abused her elderly husband to maintain political power was actually the one who, together with her chief of staff, was making decisions on behalf of the president with a brain that was already gone?
Do you realize that it's now possible to publicly say that the president had a dead, non-functioning brain? And the other side isn't even trying to dispute it, to sue, to say it's slander. Why? Because it's not slander anymore, it's a fact.
Now, the next question that naturally comes to my mind, and which I hope to get an answer to in all of this: who was responsible for drawing up the agenda that Jill Biden and her chief of staff were following? I'm inclined to believe it was the Obamas, because the Bidens themselves don't have that much political influence. It must have been Jill Biden. It must have come from the very top of the Democratic establishment. Before I show you the news about the House Oversight Committee investigation, let me demonstrate just how corrupt, spineless, and dishonest the entire Democratic establishment is. As the co-chair of the Democratic National Committee admits, insider trading among politicians like Nancy Pelosi is openly discussed. But nobody does anything about it because they're all getting rich from it.
I would say that Pelosi is actually doing her job very well. I don't agree with these schemes with the stocks. I mean, she gets returns better than almost any hedge fund in town every year. Some members of Congress make trades that are just too well timed for them not to have insider information. They seem to be some of the best financial analysts in human history. Have you spoken out against this? I've spoken out against this before, but you know that as well. I understand that if I start this fight, it will be harder for us to pass the gun control law. That's why I pick my battles. The hardest part of my job is that I just want to burn everything down because everything is so corrupt.
And also the fact that Democrats in the Senate, knowing what laws are being prepared, are buying and selling stocks of the companies that will be affected by these laws, laws that no one else knows about yet, but they're already working on them. So Democrats and Republicans, of course, both in the Senate and in Congress, have been engaging in illegal prosecutable activities for decades.
I mean, this perfectly exemplifies it. This perfectly illustrates the party that loves to preach that no one is above the law. But at the same time, it's considered completely normal that high-ranking Democrats can engage in insider trading and outperform hedge funds year after year. When you climb the career ladder, you gain influence and can control voting blocks. People are more often willing to turn a blind eye to bad actions if it helps them secure support for their bills. But none of the Democrats' sins are surprising, considering they were willing to let a man with brain damage run the American government. Reporting on an investigation conducted by the House Oversight Committee. And it's clear that the Chief of Staff, Jill, is involved.
Biden. For Joe Biden and several key staff members. All of them may be subpoenaed if they don't comply by tomorrow. Now, this issue has a deadline, so Republicans are ramping up their efforts. President Trump posted on social media, "The person who controlled the car factory is becoming more and more controversial every day." Aisha Kosney reporting from Washington.
Hi, Gaya. Good morning, Harris. Yes, that's right. Chairman of the Oversight Committee, Comer, told me that his committee is ready to issue these subpoenas within a few minutes. If former President Biden's doctor and 4 other staff members do not respond to his request for an interview by tomorrow's deadline. Comer also told me that he is ready to expand the list of people to be subpoenaed to include former First Lady Jill Biden, their son Hunter Biden, and former Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
The reason for the scandal, which should end with convictions, is that the Democrats overthrew the United States government. They committed treason. And they did it because they thought they could use the justice system as a weapon and destroy Donald Trump so that he would never stand in their way again. They thought they could drive him out of political life, persecute him and his family, and attack his business empire. To raid his home with the FBI, send him to prison, and throw away the key. I believe the 2020 election was stolen from him, and I'm not afraid to say it. No one has been able to explain the difference of 20 million votes between the previous election and the next one. They tried to do everything possible to set an example for the next person who decides to come to Washington, bring an outsider's perspective, and try to restore order and put an end to corruption. They thought they could usurp the power of a democratically elected president, lie through the media, censor public discussions, imprison political opponents, and call us fascists.
And they have the chutzpah, the audacity, to call us fascists. Fascists, that is, National Socialists, just socialists, democratic socialists, as strange as it may sound, all socialists, not cute, fluffy animals that are nice to pet. They all equally want to take from us, those who worked, studied, created, invented, took risks, to take part of our achievements and give a big part to those who did nothing. But some want to listen to the music of the Internationale, while others want the Horst Wessel lead. And in reality, that's the only difference between the two. There is no qualitative difference between socialists, only a quantitative one. Well, socialism is always about three decisions. Who will we rob? How much will we take? And who is doing the robbing? Who is doing the robbing? I mean, sometimes, so to speak, we decide ourselves. Sometimes they appoint some of their own representatives. Well, lately, more and more representatives are being appointed. I want to show you a fired television host who keeps trying to convince us that gray is green and black is bright brown and bright red.
Trump has voters like that. They are personally loyal to him. It's more important to them that he is satisfied than that they themselves are satisfied. It's more important to them that he gets what he wants than that they get what they want themselves.
So we, those who support Trump's reforms, have completely changed human nature, and now we want him to be well more than we want ourselves to be well. And besides, we want him to get what he wants. By the way, I wonder what he wants more than we want to get what we want. I mean, we were always accused of the exact opposite. And now we're being accused of not wanting something for ourselves anymore, but wanting it for someone else.
They will refuse medical care. They will let their daughters be destroyed. They will let their families be ruined.
We will let our daughters' lives be destroyed as long as Trump is okay. Honestly, the Democrats have truly lost their minds. I have never seen anything like this before. But maybe there are a lot of people like that among her acquaintances. It's quite possible. As they say, money goes to money and, well, like attracts like. But look at what they've done to the people. What if you walk into a store or a bar and you're wearing a Make America Great Again or Trump hat and they refuse to serve you? Or they might even try to beat you with a bat. As long as you don't breathe the same air as them.
Question. No, we don't answer questions. Get out of my bar. Why? Because you're a Trump supporter?
I know, but don't you need our money?
No, actually, no. You get out of my bar right now. Not me, no. You get out of my bar.
Are you really serious?
Absolutely serious. Out.
Because I'm wearing Trump's vest, yes, that's...
I don't care. Leave.
We can call the police or you can just leave.
You do realize that this is a kind of discrimination, right?
Oh, Bukuka, get out of my steam.
You know, this is discrimination, right? And we don't care, they say. They told us to get out. Terrible people who are ready to sacrifice their own daughters just to attack the monster named Trump. Trump pop-em. You understand that when people are pushed to the boiling point, if you throw in a match, a fire breaks out. Especially if you train the stormtroopers in advance. For example, in Portland.
Tom Homan is very upset with what's happening in Portland. If you're here for the first time, this is a federal building in Portland where federal agents and protesters clash every night, 24 hours a day, every day, and it looks like a war zone. The situation in Portland is only getting worse. The Portland police do not support the federal agents. Journalists have to run into the federal building to escape from the protesters.
The situation escalated because the Democrat mayor of Portland forbade the city police from intervening and helping the federal agents, or just stopping these, well, what should we call them, hooligans, bandits, I don't know, thieves. They steal too, of course.
Portland prohibits local, city, and state police from cooperating with federal law enforcement agencies. This not only makes their own communities vulnerable to crime and violence, but also creates a dangerous situation on the ground. That's why now Tom Homan has to come to Portland to make things clear to his federal agents. I'm here to support you, and you will get all the resources you need. Again, it's really a big deal that the Trump administration finally sent someone with more authority to deal with this situation. I can't think of any other district in the United States that has been attacked every night, day and night. And it's the local residents who are really suffering from this.
Gentlemen, I want you to understand. All this is happening because the city council, led by mayor, has forbidden the city police from stopping the hooligans who somehow got their hands on gas masks, prepared piles of stones, smoke grenades, Molotov cocktails, and also bulletproof vests. And in their free time, every day, they spend their free time 24 hours a day coming to the same place. Shouting, throwing everything they were given, and aiming it at the federal building's security. That's the story, brother. And now let's get to the cherry on top with General Flynn. Here's his recommendation from Tulsi Gabbard regarding Obama and his circle.
And I have made this recommendation that I have made this proposal. I believe that all these people, starting with Obama and onwards, should all be stripped of their passports.
By the way, it's not so much because of the fear that they might escape punishment, but rather because in a not very friendly country, under a little pressure, each of them could be there. Carter, Clapper, Obama, Susan Rice, Comey, Brennan. They immediately scatter. And a lot of sensitive information that's sensitive for us, will immediately be leaked into any not-so-gentle hands.
Just as was done to President Trump, just like they did with President Trump when they searched his house in Mar-a-Lago, and because of what they thought was there, and in that case, they planted evidence. But I really believe that the Department of Justice should consider, if they're not already preparing, to search Barack Obama's house. There in Calorama in Washington, District of Columbia, where he has been since he physically left the White House. You know, he has been running the White House the whole time during the Biden administration.
Obama has been running the White House all 4 years of Biden's administration. Cool, right? Under Trump, 45, both Congress and the Senate were in the hands of the Republicans. But the leadership of both institutions did everything to make sure Trump couldn't accomplish what he intended and what he promised the country, the very reasons we elected him. Devin Nunes didn't want to tolerate this situation.
What Devin Nunes did in March, April of 2017, Devin Nunes came to the White House and said, hey, all of this is fake, all of this is fake. And then Devin pushed Speaker Ryan out of the House Intelligence Committee. At that time, he was the chairman. So there is some Republican dirt here that needs to be looked at, since the American people have lost trust in all institutions of power.
Is Flynn saying now that the Republican leadership was actively involved in sabotaging Trump? And us, too. And that both parties are full of immoral and compromised people who acted together as a single party against their own people.
She has just revealed to the whole world and the American people the greatest crime in the history of the United States of America. There was so much negativity about Tulsi Gabbard, one thing or another, but what did Tulsi do? She calmly did her job, and now she has revealed the greatest crime in the history of the United States of America. And now we have to fix everything for the sake of the American people.
General, I know you're at the airport right now. I'm very grateful that you found the time to participate in this program. I hope we'll have time to ask you a couple more questions. I'll get to it very quickly. Here is your name in these documents. This is James Comey. He says he put a mark on you and that he plans to try to corner you, separate you from President Trump, and destroy you. At the National Security Council, he also admitted it on camera. There was a separate moment when James Comey was asked about this, and he said the following: so what if we just play it without sound? But basically, we don't have time to show it. He basically says, yes, I went after Flynn because the new administration didn't have enough protection. I took advantage of the fact that the Trump administration was just getting started. Now, what does that mean? What's your comment on this? Now that everything has been revealed and everything is black and white?
Yes, that person right there should go to jail. And there are a few more people around him who were part of this coup, this attempted coup against the United States of America. We cannot allow something like this to happen in our country again. And the only way to prevent it from happening is to let it happen again for many, many years, maybe 100 years. It can only happen if these people are not held accountable. And the person your audience is looking at right now, you know, he's called the Cardinal. James Comey, the former FBI director, completely disgraced himself, but he was essentially involved in the biggest crime in the history of the United States of America. So these people need to be held accountable. People will expect very swift action from this administration, from the Trump administration. Lengthy investigations are unnecessary as the evidence is readily available. Tulsi Gabbard's efforts are commendable.
Two things. First, I don't think we need a quick trial. We need to take away everyone's passports, monitor private jets so they don't escape, keep them all under surveillance, so to speak, and at the same time slowly and thoroughly investigate each case one by one. And imprison them. And second, imprisoning them is not enough. We need to look at the Constitution, find the loopholes that allowed what happened to happen, and change the Constitution so that, as General Flynn said, nothing like this happens again for the next 100 years. Our way of governing society is political democracy. We call it, let's say, the Democratic Republic of the United States of America, just like 250 years or even more. The beginning of our republic was marked by the book Common Sense, written by Thomas Paine more than 250 years ago. A book that showed how we needed to change our Constitution and our lives so that we wouldn't depend on some idiot or tyrant, whether living abroad or here or nearby. But now we need to, based on the experience of these last 250 years. There is a continuation in this book, meaning common sense, meaning 200 years after. That is common sense 200 years later, showing how to now address the shortcomings of the Constitution. I talk about this in a separate video series called Roadmap to Freedom. Below there will be a link to my book, Capitalism 101, co-authored with the creators of this science of beings endowed with freedom and will. The book is free. And by ordering it, you will also receive daily 10-minute videos with stories, narratives, and interesting examples of how we can and should organize our society so that this doesn't happen anymore. For a few cents, you get 10 minutes of engaging stories every morning. Like entertaining physics, but in this case, not physics, but political economy. Entertaining political economy. Marx, but correct and amusing, and also Corosho. If you're interested, we make additional videos for sponsors, meaning for those who pay $4 a month to support the channel. This helps us because there are a lot of expenses. So, gentlemen, if you scroll down, you'll find how to become a sponsor. Give us a shout, and we'll be very grateful to you. And it's called We Owe You. That's all. If I start telling everything, it would take hours. See you tomorrow.